You're watching the How to Play Rock Guitar system on the 10-week RockSTAR learning platform, the world's shortest learning curve to master everything in life that you've ever wanted to do. Here's your instructor, Blair Barnhardt. Let's get started.
Before we get started, think about this, if you will. Guitar Zeus. This is a project by Carmen Apici, Tony Franklin, and my good friend Kelly Keeling. Now, I had the good fortune to play with Kelly and actually perform this song live on stage. So if you're looking for some inspiration today, go download Perfect Day. And later on in the session here, maybe week 6 or 7, I'll play another song where Slash did the lead solo for a song that Kelly wrote for the Guitar Zeus project. So the song here is called Perfect Day. It has been redone by some of Kelly's friends as of most recent, but grab the original version and you're about to hear some frighteningly good fretless bass. Badass bass playing. One of my favorite, if not favorite, bass players. I had a good chance to see Tony Franklin play when they did the Jimi Hendrix Experience here right in Atlanta, and just an amazing experience watching Tony live on stage. One of my favorite bass players ever. So here is just a brief introduction to Perfect Day. I want you to listen to it and just appreciate the fretless bass work here that Tony's doing.
It's cold outside.
Just listen to that bass as it slides in here under the keyboards.
Just to feel the sunrise upon your face. Nothing but good inside my heart.
Kelly can sing too. Probably my favorite rock vocalist.
That's how it's gonna be. 'Cause everyone I've seen knows need a little space to find. Time to find what it really means to let your soul unwind. Lord, He knows, and I know I've got faith.
Listen to those slides here. The whole melody on itself within the song. I just want to review here. I've added a couple things here. First and foremost, thanks so much to Tony Franklin for allowing us the pleasure of using some of his tracks here in the studio for guitar instruction. You can also go over to Easy Sounds Z on Tony Franklin's Facebook page. There's a link there. We'll send you a link to it as well. And Tony did allow us to pick one of our favorite songs off the CD that I just purchased here. I just downloaded it a minute ago. Again, Tony Franklin, one of the world's foremost best bass player ever, bar none. So we're going to have a lot of fun here playing along with Tony's tracks. Here's an example of what one sounds like right off the website. So how cool is that? You know, you can riff along with that. We'll get you some jazz chords, something to play along with that later on. Tony Franklin. Now, a review here, quick review. Again, disclaimer, there's no affiliate commissions just because we mentioned Tony, okay? He's just a great bass player, and I think you as a musician going forward, if you want to play in a band, you've got to learn to play in time. So before you even hit the garage band stage, if you can get playing along with Tony, sitting in with one of the world's most foremost bass players ever, with a drummer. You got Jason's drum tracks to use as well for practice. And again, I don't profess to be a bass player. I'm simply throwing this into the curriculum so you have a better understanding of deconstructing these rock and roll songs so you can go forward and write your own songs. A lot of times when I do a little jingle or a new song in the RV traveling across the country, whatever music I'm listening to on Sirius XM that particular week, I end up recording something similar, and generally speaking, I'll do the bass line first, the drum track and the bass line, much like Paul McCartney did this, Sheryl Crow does with most every one of her songs that she's ever written, all starting on the bass guitar. So it's a very important part of rock guitar instruction. So Perfect Day, Guitar Zeus project, again, if you're looking for some inspiration for bass, I grew up listening to a lot of Alice Cooper, The Who. Some of my very favorite bass players are Dennis Dunaway and perhaps Queen, Aerosmith. A lot of that music was very inspirational to me. Funk, hip hop. I really appreciate the fact that in hip hop music now we can get way down. At 40 hertz, our ears stop hearing the bass lines. But fortunately, we have these amazing car stereos now that can replicate all of those subwoofer notes. So for today's session, we'll also talk about Some Kind of Wonderful. That's a song by Some Kind of Wonderful, Grand Funk Railroad, I think. So Some Kind of Wonderful. That's in standard tuning on the bass. Very simple bass line. And we'll go back and we'll revisit so that's, I'll just put Grand Funk Railroad as GFR for short. You can get that on iTunes. If you're interested, I'm not forcing you to do this. The tracks that Jason did on the drums are free. They'll be available in our 10-week RockSTAR download attached to this particular lesson on this week. And finally, for the purpose of this bass guitar session today, we'll also go back and revisit our good friend Jesse James Dupree and the Jackal Band right around the corner from us here, and that was When Will It Rain? So, you are welcome to tab out. Again, that's Jackal. You're welcome to tab out any of these bass lines, but to tell you the truth, some of them are so simple that you can pretty much memorize them right out of the gate. So let's get started with the bass guitar. A couple of things here I want to point out. We talked earlier about passive pickups and active pickups. Well, in this particular case, I have the active pickups, which means that there's a battery back in here, a 9-volt battery back inside. I picked up this Ibanez SRX 390 at a music store. It was used when I got it. I think I paid like 150 bucks, 175 bucks. Fell in love with it right away. It's heavy. I don't quite understand all the active electronics in it because I don't have an instruction manual. The action's set up really good. It's got a long neck and it's got a 24 fretboard as well. So I find when I play the bass, I like to use my fingers. You can use a pick, thin pick, thick picks, felt picks, whatever you decide to do. You can use your fingers. You can use one finger. You can use two fingers. Probably the majority of music that we hear recorded has been done with either the two-finger method or it's been done with a pick. A lot of the punk rock bands, a lot of pick work still. And so as you're looking at your favorite bass player, or your favorite band for that matter, just keep an eye out for when they're on stage. Are they playing with a pick? Are they playing with a two-finger method or even a three-finger method? And I'll get into that a little bit in just a second. But before we do that, there's so many of you out there that have been asking us the questions about GarageBand and iTunes and the likes of that. So let's touch on that one more time. I mentioned last week that I had a little app on my phone, the Gallion and Kruger app, that I could take the little iRig and I could literally take this iRig into my iPhone with the Gallion and Kruger app. I'm sure there's hundreds of other bass guitar apps that you can use on your iPhone or your iPad. In any case, you're going to plug that in directly into your phone. You can take it right into GarageBand. A little bit more sophisticated way of doing that is to either take, I showed you the Blackjack Onyx last week and the Focusrite as a way to get in if you want to go down to Guitar Center and get these. They're like 140 bucks maybe. But what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to plug in your bass, or coming out of the bass amp or coming from a mic in your bass amp. Like we could grab the 57 and we can mic the acoustic amp back here and we can run that signal through the XLR jack and then take it into USB, into GarageBand. Now the other option that I do from time to time, and I'm doing it right now, is, and again I've mentioned this a couple weeks ago, this is the Sanzomp bass driver Tech 21 NYC. I think this is about 240 bucks at Guitar Center. It has the ability to take your signal right out of the tuner for that matter. Now I've already tuned to 440 here, but this tone that you're hearing right now is set up inside of the Sanzomp. A 9-volt battery operates this little device. And you can also go with the XLR jack out, but right now I'm going 1/4 inch into the chop shop, and out of there with the 1/8 jack into the Bose 301 system, and it sounds pretty good to me. I'm very happy with that tone. I could go ahead now and run headphones, and I could be recording direct into GarageBand simply by coming out of that 1/4 inch of the bass Sans amp into the Focusrite, and I could actually play along with Jason's track right now in GarageBand and record that for you guys. And you could do the same thing at home with your own little jingles. Now, before we move on to plugging into the acoustic amp here, just to give you an idea of the difference in tone, let me demonstrate, and again, I'm not a bass expert. I've just played with a lot of really amazing bass players. I mean, how many bass players in this lifetime do you play with where you've seen them break a string in a jam session because they're plucking the strings so hard? But one of the bass players I played with back in Kitchener, Ontario, back in Canada, he played a Rickenbacker, if I recall, or some jazz type bass, but he was very jazz oriented. And we got into these amazing fusion jams. We go on for hours. But he played with his thumb and then pulled up with his fingers. It's called slap bass. So that's down with your thumb and then maybe up with your forefinger. So that's down with your thumb and then maybe up with your forefinger. So now, I'll play that in the acoustic, or something similar to it, and let's see what the difference in tonality. So a little bite to it. You could set the tone controls all different kinds of way. It's got a little line in, and it's got a headphone jack out. So you could actually take that signal with a headphone jack, run it right into your chop shop, take it out of the chop shop, run it right into your Focusrite, run it right into GarageBand. You could do a whole bunch of different techniques there. If you wanted to practice at home with a drum beat, you could probably plug in iPhone into the bass input 2, put the headphone jack on, and play along with your favorite song back at the house. So let's talk about a very simple song here. I'm not going to even try to play anything from Tony Franklin. Perfect Day is just one fine example of his fretless bass playing along with Kelly and Carmen Apici at the Guitar Zeus Project. A bunch of different albums, Guitar Zeus Project. If you guys like playing guitar, check out the Guitar Zeus albums. Kelly wrote all the music for them. Then they invited in the world's most famous lead guitar players to do the lead guitar track. So let's get on with a couple of very simple things for you to practice on your guitar or your bass. Let's do Some Kind of Wonderful by Grand Funk Railroad. One moment, please. Now, one of the challenges you're going to find if there's not a long lead into the song and you're trying to record the very beginning in the chop shop, you've got to be very quick with your fingers. So let me demonstrate. I'm going to press the record button, then play.
I don't need
And on your chop shop, you can actually take the vocals right out of the mix. Great singer, but he's gone now. You can bring him back in. You do left side or right side. Looks like the bass is more predominant down the right side of the stereo spectrum here. Now, that sounds very easy, but here's the trick. Even I like to think that I know a thing or two about the bass guitar and a little thing or two about timing, but this takes a lot of discipline to play a 4 minute song and continue with that beat over and over and over again.
I don't need a whole lot of money. I don't need
The 10-week RockSTAR system. You got this. Remember, amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals rehearse until they can't play it wrong.